What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, Joy Speaks, a channel that I created to provide a voice for the recovery community. And when I say recovery community, I'm referring to people who are struggling or who have struggled with substance abuse, alcohol abuse, mental health issues, and their loved ones, because as we know, it's not just the addict or the alcoholic who is affected, but also the community that surrounds them. Before I get started, do me a favor, hit like, hit share, and most importantly, hit subscribe. Hitting subscribe will cost you absolutely nothing. All that will happen is you will gain access to my channel, and if you hit the notifications bell, you will be notified every time I put out some fresh content. Now, you probably haven't gotten any notifications in a long time because I have been stagnant. I've been stuck. I haven't recorded, I haven't put out any videos, and it's only because my life has been so busy. But I want to get back into it. There's no reason for me to stay stuck, so I'm just taking a jump back in. I'm gonna change things up a little bit and just be a little bit less formal and just more conversational, because I've noticed that the videos that are just kind of me talking about my experience tend to do a little bit better than the super structured and formatted videos. So today I just want to talk about meditation. I want to talk about meditation because as of lately, it has played a huge role in not just my recovery, but just my life in general. And if you're new to my channel, I just want to say, or share that I am a recovering addict, an addict who was addicted to multiple substances for a lot of my life, actually for the bulk of my life. And I spent a lot of the years of my life self-medicating and numbing my feelings away. And fortunately for me, I was granted a second chance, and it was ultimately drug-induced psychosis that led me to getting sober. And in just a couple of weeks, I will have 6 years clean and sober. And it is truly a miracle for someone like me to even say that, because the truth is, people die, people don't make it. But on a lighter note, I've made it. I've put in a lot of work, and some of the work that I do and haven't done as consistently as I probably could have is meditation. And, there's a lot of, for me, there was a lot of opinions about meditation before I started it. I just assumed, it was just people sitting with their legs crossed, singing Kumbaya or humming. And I just had no real practical experience with it. And I didn't really start to have uh, a good relationship with meditation until I let go of the preconceived notions that I had around it. So I had to let go of the idea of what meditation was supposed to look like or feel like or sound like, and should just try it. And I was wildly unsuccessful my first few attempts at meditation. Um, all I could hear was my own inner narrative saying, like, this isn't going to work. This is stupid. This is a waste of time. What's the point? And it wasn't until I had my first experience of serenity during meditation that started to shift my perspective. And I was probably around 60 or 90 days clean when I had this first experience. And I do also want to say that for me, meditation means guided meditation. I prefer that. I prefer to have, a guide kind of, keeping my thoughts centered and taking me in very specific directions, because left to my own devices, my mind will just spin and spiral and spiral and spiral. And then I'll just be judging myself spiraling, and it just creates this whole just uncomfortable feeling. And then you feel the urge to get up and do something, and you lose the meditation. So through this guided meditation, this first time I experienced serenity, I had gotten to like maybe 12 or 13 minutes, and something happened. Something happened where everything got quiet. Everything got quiet, including the inner narrative in my head. And all of a sudden, for maybe just a few minutes, I felt complete ease. I could hear slight wind outside. I could hear like some birds chirping in the distance. I mean, it was honestly something that you kind of hear about. And I thought, wow, that's why people meditate. Because for those couple of minutes, I had no worries, I had no anxieties, I had no fears. I wasn't thinking about yesterday, I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. I was just present with myself and content and just in the moment. And as most good things, it faded. And then I tried to, recreate that experience. Very, very similar, in fact, to the first time I used a substance. It felt great, it felt freeing, I felt liberated, inhibitions were lowered, and I spent year after year after year chasing that very first high. So, and it's a similar dynamic to meditation. There's no guarantee that, for me, there's no guarantee that I will experience serenity every time. But what I can experience is moments of serenity, and that takes practice. And so, in my first 90 days of getting sober, I practiced very regularly, and I could feel, the gradual kind of slowing of my thoughts, a little bit more ability to stay focused and stay present. And then what happens is, you start to reap the benefits of whatever it is that you're practicing. So for this, I started to reap the benefits of meditation. And then my ego got in the way, and I figured I don't need to do this anymore. And of course, once I stop practicing, I lose the benefits. And then I'm finding myself to be more anxious, and I'm finding my thoughts to be moving more quickly, and finding myself doing a lot more rumination, and getting and feeling very out of sync with my body. And for someone who uses his body on a daily basis, fitness wise and work wise, I really appreciate the benefit of having connectedness with my body, and that comes through a diligent practice of meditation. And so I've gone back and forth with meditating and not meditating. And a few months ago, I just realized I was using a couple of apps that I had kind of cycled through all of their libraries of meditations. And so I figured, well, I've already done all these meditations already, uh, how else am I going to continue this practice? Because I still wasn't at a place where I could just meditate without a guide. And I'm still not there yet. I'm working towards it for sure. But what I did was I just asked around, especially I asked people who I know had a very serious meditation practice. And then they referred me to this app. And this app is huge. It's so, so expansive. It's got hundreds of thousands of guided meditations. And so now I'm like feeling like a kid in a candy store with all of these different singles and courses and goals and objectives. And so now I am probably around 2 months of a daily meditation. And what I told myself was I need to set a minimum amount of meditation time every single day, consistency, discipline. And so I told myself for a minimum, I'm going to meditate for at least half an hour every day. And for the past 2 months, I have meditated sometimes more, but a minimum of half an hour every day. And the benefits are back in effect. I haven't experienced the serenity for like extended periods of time during meditation, but once again, I'm at least able to experience moments of it. And for those moments of just complete, centered, connected calm, I'm so grateful. And if you're someone like me who, spent a lot of his life putting a bunch of stimulants in your body, it makes a lot of sense that, I have trouble slowing things down. I have trouble slowing down my thoughts. I have trouble, you know, with sleep. And that's because I have to continue to undo a lot of the damage that I've done to myself. No one did this to me. I chose to put these substances in my body. But now I also have the power to start to undo some of that. And I have found that through meditation, I am able to start to feel a lot more calm, a lot more centered. And even if I find myself having moments of anxiety, I can still focus on my breath through those moments, because let's be honest, we're not in a space to meditate 24 hours a day. And I know for me, my most anxious moments of the day are usually moments when I'm at work, because I work in an industry that requires speed and haste and to be on and alert and pay attention to detail. And so I can get very easily caught up in that, almost to the point where I'm like holding my breath. And so if I'm able to kind of have that awareness to just stop myself in the moment of anxiety at my peak, or not, maybe not even at my peak, just constant reminders throughout my work shift to just breathe, you know? And the secret for my meditation is making sure that my exhales are longer than my inhales. That's a form of meditation that I can do at any point of the day. When I'm driving, when I'm working, when I get off of work, when I start my day. If I can just be intentional around just making sure that my focus on my breath is centered around making sure my exhales are longer than my inhales, my heart rate will slow down. My mind will slow down. So I highly encourage you all, especially those of you all who are trying to get sober, getting sober or not even sober, just curious about my channel. Meditation has positive benefits for everyone, not just addicts or alcoholics. And it's even been said that, practicing meditation can extend your life because of what it does to your heart, what it does to your nervous system. A lot of times, we are so anxious and pent up with so much energy and don't even realize it because we've been in that space so long, it feels familiar. And so what I have to practice now is staying disciplined, even when I start to achieve the benefits. That's the key. Right when I'm feeling good, it doesn't mean that I don't need to practice anymore. It just means that I need to stay consistent to continue to enjoy the benefits and even watch the benefits expand. I'm hoping to get to a place where I can have like 10 to 15 minutes of complete serenity. I do believe it's possible just with some consistency and practice. So yeah, it's my first video in a very long time. Gonna definitely send out some more videos that are just kind of conversational like this, talking about my life, talking about the tools that I'm using to maintain my sobriety. Hope that you learned something from this. And if you didn't, send it to someone else, because maybe someone else will. That being said, thank you. I love you, and I'll see you on the next one.